Okay, good afternoon and welcome everyone to uh, today's session, this lecture on historical and cultural significance of Alhambra, lessons for the future. Today we have with us two prominent personalities. We have His Excellency, the Ambassador of Spain to Malaysia here, Jose Luis Pardo, and we have our distinguished professor, Dr. Murad Merican, a professor at ISTAC here. We are very much honored to have His Excellency, the Ambassador, here. And today is, I think, almost 1 month since we started the Alhambra exhibition, Alhambra Palace exhibition at ISTAC IUM here. It had happened all because of the effort and the support of His Excellency, the Ambassador of Spain, and he is very generous and very supportive. And I can tell you that the exhibition in the last, I think, 4 to 5 weeks has attracted many people from different levels of the society, including ambassadors, students, school students, professors, doctors, specialists in architecture from UITM, from other places, from Indonesia. And it was really something great to have at ISTAC here. And as you know, all the importance of Alhambra in the history of Islamic civilization of Al-Andalus, and how it became one of the monuments of architecture and culture and civilization that brings people together and that bridges the cultures and the religions. And I think His Excellency will be telling us about the importance of this Alhambra. So, brothers and sisters, it's a great honor for us to have our two prominent guests here. And it was supposed that today is the last day of the exhibition at the International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization. But we are still receiving requests from people to come and see Alhambra exhibition here. That's why we appealed to His Excellency when he arrived, and he is very generous, and he say another 2 weeks. So it is very great. And I want just to tell you that yesterday Dr. Ayn mentioned in one of the WhatsApp groups that a woman in Malaysia here, her age is 93 years old. She heard about this and she wanted to come and see the exhibition. So her daughter, I think, or her daughter and husband came this morning, and they told me that she wants to come, and but we heard that the exhibition is today is the last day, and then with the grace of God and the support of His Excellency, we will extend it another 2 weeks. And for your information, many things happened during this event. Some lectures were delivered. A film about Alhambra was aired in this place here, and many people posed requests and questions to us. So once again, I welcome His Excellency and Professor Murad. I welcome you all, those who are here with us in this Ibn Khaldun room, and all the people who are in the Zoom from different countries, and also in the YouTube channel of ISTAC. Welcome to this section, and I forward to Dr. Ayn to moderate this session. You go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Abdul Aziz Birgood. And it is my great pleasure to welcome you all to this special lecture titled The Historical and Cultural Significance of Alhambra, Lessons for the Future. And today we are honored to have two esteemed speakers who will enlighten us on this fascinating topic. We have His Excellency Jose Luis Pardo, Ambassador of the Kingdom of Spain to Malaysia, and Professor Dato Murad Merican, a distinguished scholar in the field of Malay history and culture. And before we delve into the insights of our speakers have to offer, so let me take a moment to reflect on the significance of Alhambra. And this iconic palace and fortress complex located in Granada, Spain, stands as a testament to the rich architectural and cultural legacy of the Islamic Golden Age in Europe. And it is built during the mid-13th century by Nasrid dynasty. The Alhambra represents the zenith of Moorish art and architecture, blending intricate Islamic decorative motifs with serene gardens and sophisticated water features. And so without further ado, it is my distinct honor to introduce our first speaker, His Excellency Jose Luis Pardo, Ambassador of the Kingdom of Spain to Malaysia. And Ambassador Pardo has a distinguished diplomatic career and brings a wealth of knowledge about the cultural and historical ties between Spain and the wider world. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Thank you very much. First of technology and myself. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for ISTAC, for UM, for just having welcome the exhibition on Alhambra so successfully, and all the facilities we have to show you this exhibition and to allow in this prestigious institute, and especially to its president and director, Dr. Friend Margut, and all his team, and that Professor Muna too. Thank you very much for this invitation and for the rest of the work that we have together on this Alhambra adventure, so to say. I will be try to explain to you some elements, some comments. Afterward, we will have time to your comments, to your questions on what can be read from La Alhambra based on the past, but mainly focus on the future, which are the lessons, both historically and artistically. May I? Thank you very much. This is Alhambra. We all know. This is a complex of palaces, of Moscow, of military garrisons, of royal manufacturers, a city in itself, or gardens, etc. This is historically the symbol of many things. Is the symbol of the golden age of Islamic culture in Europe, and at the same time is the gem of beauty. And these are the things, the two main messages that I think the Alhambra passed to us now in our present. First, that civilizations can dialogue and can work together and can live together, and that is not necessary and not useful of talking on terms of class of civilizations. And Al-Andalus was an example of that. And second, as far as the beautiful or the niceness of the monument is concerned, that beauty is a universal language that goes beyond religion, gender, age, countries. Every human being identify what is beauty. No, but it's nice. What is beauty? That is different. I mean, Alhambra is beautiful, and Alhambra is not nice, beautiful. As Petronas Towers are beautiful, are not nice, are beautiful. And so this sense of beauty is universal. So let me say some words on the first issues connecting to Alhambra is the image of Al-Andalus. The history of Al-Andalus, you know, is part of the history of the Iberian Peninsula, specifically Portugal and Spain, kind of Spain, to what we are very proud of. It was not 20 years, it was 700 years of common history and common living together. it is facing in this map, I said to you more or less, which was the history of Al-Andalus. We know there was the peak, in my opinion, was the Caliphate of Cordoba, and from the 9th to the 11th century. It was not only the peak of Al-Andalus, the peak of human history as far as culture is concerned. Cordoba was the most populated city all over Europe and one of the biggest in the world, and was a center, universal center of culture and civilization. Afterwards, with the decline of Cordoba, there was the fitna, so the civil war among the Muslim kingdoms in Spain, and they were individual kingdoms. We call in Spanish reinos de taifas, the kingdoms of taifas, and some of them extremely important, like Zaragoza, Toledo, Sevilla, Granada, Murcia, Valencia, that strongholds where culture, research were developed. Afterwards, there were in the 13th, 13th centuries some another people from the Maghreb area, from Morocco, who came to the Al-Andalus, or Almoravids and Almohads, and finally, after the end of the Taifa of Seville, was the Nasrid Kingdom of Granada. The Nasrid Kingdom of Granada is the latest and the longest Islamic kingdom of Al-Andalus. It was from 1238 to 1492. So, with that, it's a long history. It's 700 years that I think was not uncommon. I have left a very strong fingerprint in the history, not only of Spain, in Europe, but in my case, in my country, in Spain. When we try to look about the past, there are two extremes, in my view. The one is that the approach that try to mythify things, and the contrary, who try to put things in terms of clash of civilizations. A civilization that was better or worse or more developed or less developed than the other. I think both are dangerous, but the second one is certainly much more dangerous because it tries to apply contemporary concepts, historical contemporary concepts, to historical ages in which these concepts were not that, and were not in the sense we understand them now. And so the global image is distorted because of that. But anyway, Al-Andalus, of course, and the history of Al-Andalus is a history of tolerance, of living together, and how civilizations can cooperate and can for the benefit of the mankind. I will put you some examples of these kind of exchanges. This is some of the authors of the International School of the Translators of Toledo. In Toledo, was in 1085, was recovered. Because the logic in Al-Andalus was is a perfectly understandable logic. There were the Christian kingdoms that wanted to recover what they have lost, and the Muslim kingdoms that were to maintain what they have won. So easily at this, and so the invasion of the Al-Andalus were very specific. It was so quick. And so quick. So this is the logic. This is the logic. But in this logic, there were 700 years. Can anybody believe that you are 700 years having war? No. There were 700 years. Of convivence, of working together, and very mixed things. There were a lot of Muslim kingdoms that cooperated, even at war with Christian kingdoms. And it was much more complicated than that. For instance, our national hero, the national hero in Spain is El Cid. El Cid came from Arabic Sidi, and it was the name that they give to him in the Taifa of Zaragoza, which he worked against Christian kingdoms. And on the contrary, afterwards, he made war against the Taifa, Muslim kingdom of Valencia, for instance. But this Cid comes from Sidi, Sir, Lord, in Arabic. I mean, and so it's a national hero. I mean, so for instance, let's come back to Toledo. And so the new king, it was Christian king, created the International Translator School of Toledo. What does it mean? That there were Muslims, Jews, and Christians that tried to translate into Latin or Greek the huge quantity during the Cordoba emirate of treaties and books that have been already lost for the rest of Europe from Greek philosophies. It was lost and it was recovered in Cordoba, translated to Arabic. Otherwise, we have had lost the Western so-called civilization. We have had lost all that. If it will not be the case that in Cordoba they translated into Arabic, and so in this school of Toledo, I mean, try to continue translating in the three languages. And one of the biggest examples or nice examples of that was one of the major introductions of, there were a lot of them, of the Islam culture in Europe. It was the chess. Chess was immediately the play of the nobility in all over Europe. In all over Europe. As a matter of fact, even the wording in the chess came from Arabic. And we take in English, in Spanish, jaque mate, that is to say, when you win, you say jaque mate, chessmate, comes from Arabic, a shackle mat. The dead is king, the king is there. I mean, that the case that you have won the case. So, and it was extremely popular. You see here, yes, in the Muslim kingdoms in Spain, explaining to the rest, which were not only the chess and other things that are so common now, and they were everybody played that. Christians, Jews, and Arabs. I mean, and Muslims. And not only that, in the court, for instance, that I put an example of intermix. You see that is the king of Castile and the queen. If you see the lady in accompanying the queen, on the right, you will see that this is wearing in Arabic fashion. That is not Christian fashion. That is Arabic fashion, because it was in fashion in Christian kingdoms. It was the top of elegance. I mean, broderie, silk. It was in fashion. Fadi, for instance, that came from Iraq to Cordoba, yes, introduced the use of crystal and the use of force, etc. They were absolutely unknown in Europe. For instance, so it was very refined. I mean, Arabic as a language was the most refined language in the peninsula, and there were even some Christians and literatures who said, I mean, everybody here is doing the poems in Christian kingdoms in Arabic. I mean, yes, because I mean it was this continually contacting of. So, and it was without distinction of gender for women too, that is in Grenade. And you see another element of changes. If you see the lady in the middle, they has a brocade in the head that is Christian. That was the fashion in Christian. I mean, for instance, that's this element of exchange, and here another example. This is one of the very rare examples of painting in Alhambra. Figurative painting in Alhambra. Normally, Quran doesn't prize the human beings or animals in the pictures. So this is this mix of that was made by Christian. I mean, by Christians. I mean, painters. But look, it's playing chess again. The typical. I mean, playing chess, and there is a difference of 300 years. From the previous photo to this, 300 years of difference, but maintaining the context. And if you see, and in the window, on top of the window of this lady, this is the code of the Nasrid kingdom. And with the lemma and with the motto that is, only God is victorious. So an example of persistence. Second one, what do you think is that? No, this is the palace of the Christian king Pedro I, the king of Castile. It was built like that because the Moorish and Granada style was the top at that time. He was close friend of the Muhammad V, that was emir from Granada. And so they told him, please, could you hire me, your artisans, to do my palace in Sevilla? This is in the Alcázar of Sevilla. Alcázar is another Arabic word that was in Spanish. Alcázar is the castle in which the king lives. There are many other castles, but the castle in which the king is Alcázar. Alcázar. So the Alcázar of Segovia, the Alcázar of Seville, even in Madrid, the Alcázar of Madrid. So this is not a reused building. No, it was built from the very beginning like that, because Pedro I wanted this style. And it was with all artisans coming from Granada. Another example, look at that. You have seen, that's the entry. You see on the top, no? You see on the top? You can, and that is with more detail. What is that? This is in Spanish, in Old Castilian, I mean, the same, well, this is the king, I'm Pedro I, etc., and I have these palaces, and this was built this year, etc. But in the middle, this style is the Incubic, I mean, calligraphy in the motto of the Nasrid kingdom, again, of Granada. Only God is victorious. In a Christian, he was the king of Castile, I mean. So that is exactly the same with that is Granada. The same structure, the same, I mean, approach to. Yeah, you can see, no? Okay. This is the palace inside. You will see that is Granada, that is Fez, that is Marrakesh. No. This is inside, is the palace of Pedro I. Is the palace, is the same but inside. It was built by, and it was a Christian king. I mean, the same. This is interior. This is interior of the palace. And Pedro I gives back to Mohammed V a gift. This is in Alhambra. This is absolutely unique to have figurative, figures in a Muslim palace. No, so it was a gift taken by Christian painters, and it is the emirs, the historical emirs of the kingdom, or the genealogy of the kings of Granada. Third example on this: in Al-Andalus were different phases. There were people that in the religious tolerance. Of course, there were wars, of course, but there were wars too in the Ummah at that time, and there were wars certainly in the Christian kingdom in the rest of Europe at that time, of course. But only in Al-Andalus there was tolerance. Yes, there were some times that there were some civil outcasts, but that is an example. That the people and tolerance, religious tolerance. What happens with the people, with the Muslims that live in Al-Andalus, that they were being reconquered by Christian kingdoms? And on the contrary, what happened with the Christians that live in Al-Andalus? They were forced to go? They were forced to be refugees? No, they could stay. Okay, you stay, you continue with your religion. Okay, it does, in compensation, you pay more taxes than the other, but you can stay. I mean, you can continue, I mean, your religion. And these two examples, that Mozárabes and Mudéjas, that is, and you see the influences. This is a church. This is a church of the 13th century in Toledo. You see there is a pile when people is baptized on the right. This is a church. But look at the architecture. Look at the architecture. That is a Mozárabe church. That is to say, Christians that live in Al-Andalus territories, so to say, or Islamic kingdoms territories. The other way around, Moriscos. This is a wonderful, one of the masterpieces is the wood cabinet ceilings. That they're in Al-Andalus were absolutely masters, absolute masters. This is one of the funniest examples in Granada. Okay. Look at this. 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 All of them are in Christian kingdoms. Many of them, for instance, this one, just an example, this one is in the Alcázar of Segovia, that was the headquarters of the King Isabella from Castile. And you use the center, this is the coat of arms of the Kingdom of Castile, Castile and Lion. And look at the style. It's immediately recognizable as Arabic one, Muslim one. The same happens here. That's a church. That is a church. This is a palace. This is again a church. You see here, I mean, if you have visited the altars, I mean, this is a church. And this is a palace. So, I mean, there were people, Muslim artisans who live in Christian kingdoms, that they will someone to do that. On top, it was extremely well, I mean, they have a lot of prestige to have this kind of, a lot of prestige. And it was so difficult to do. Only, I mean, Muslim artisans couldn't do that. Christians could do not that. So, but anyway, and so now is many of them are this heritage of, and we are very proud of. In Castile is full of that, and Castile was, I mean, was territories with 1,000 were already Christians back. I mean, so an example of. And the last one, and that in Teruel, that is to Morisco. That is too Morisco. I mean, that is, I mean, Muslims living in Christians. I mean, and that is not only say, okay, let's use things in interior. I mean, that is are not seen. No, in exterior. There are the towers. Teruel is in Aragon. Is full of these towers. It's human heritage of UNESCO. It's full of these towers. I mean, that is so evident that are not Christians. I mean, style. I mean. Is so evident, so prestigious was, so good was the interconnection, I mean, among civilizations and cultures. The last example I put on that. This is the coat of arms from my country, of the Kingdom of Spain. This is in the essential part is the kingdom from 1492. Since now, this is the crown, because we are a kingdom. There is the two columns. There you see some lines is the sea, because and the non plus ultra is the symbol that we discovered America. That is our most historically important. So plus ultra means go far, go far. And these are the kingdoms that founded Spain. You see the castle, the kingdom of Castilla. You see the lion, the kingdom of Lion or Leon. You see these streets, that is the kingdom of Aragon, that the language is Aragon, Catalonia, Balearic Islands, and Valencia. These chains are Navarra. This is the kingdom that entered into Spain in 1512. And down, what do you see? Well, I explained to you. It's a pomegranate. This is the kingdom of Granada. The pomegranate is a fruit. It was the symbol of Granada, the pomegranate. Even in Spanish, there are the two names. Granada means pomegranate too. And the fruit of, it was imported from Iran or from outside, I mean, when they came, was the pomegranate, an open pomegranate. That it was included that as remembering of that Alhambra was part of our history. It was one of the kingdoms that created Spain as a country, as we all know now. I mean, as a matter of fact, until after 1492, that it was in which the last fall of the Nasrid kingdom, the kings maintained the kingdom of Granada itself. It existed now with Christian one, but the limitation, I mean, the limitation of the kingdom of Granada was 1492 to 1833, with the denomination of Kingdom of Granada. I mean, in 1833, we changed, and now the distribution of provinces, and so on. But just an example that we are very proud of, and it's a symbol too that, well, it was for us very important, our Muslim heritage in our history. And putting more examples, and I finish with that, and to pass to the artistic place. The influence that this coexistence and living together was in Spain. For instance, in our language, in Spanish, 8% of the Spanish, 4,000, between 4,000 and 5,000 words come from Arabic. And they are not archaeological words. No, they are words that we use absolutely every day. Mayor, alcalde, cousin, almohada, aceite, the oil, olive oil, I mean, so many, 4,000, 5,000 we have. Even we have an expression that is ojalá, that is inshallah. We say ojalá. So inshallah, it's the same. So sometimes, ojalá means the same. If God wants, or permits, or allows, so ojalá. That is not ojalá me tocara la lotería, ojalá estuviera en ojalá, it's inshallah. So, for instance, but not only on that, on geography, beginning with Andalusia. Andalusia, that is the biggest region in Spain, and the most populated, came from Al-Andalus, obviously, Andalusia. The name of the Strait of Gibraltar. Gibraltar is Gibraltaric. Gibraltar in Spanish. So, and the Strait of Gibraltar. Gibraltar means that because it was the entry, was why Tariq Musa entered to Spain in 711, and we call Gibraltar. That is Gibraltaric, I repeat. The tallest mount in Spain, in Peninsular Spain, because in Canary Islands we have a Teide that is higher, but in Peninsular Spain is in Grenada, and the mount is Mulhacén. Mulhacén in Spanish came from Mulay Hassan, that it was one of the last enemies of Granada. And this is called because him. It's supposed that he was being buried in this mount. Anyway, Mulhacén. And the big rivers we have in Andalusia, for instance, Guadiana or Guadalquivir, the big rivers, for instance, no? Even our capital, even the capital of the kingdom, even Madrid. Madrid came from Arabic, Maghrib, that they meant at the beginning a place with a lot of water. Maghrib. So it's not, we do not need to find for, it's day by day, in every day, to do that. And it's a thing that we are really, really very, 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 very proud of. I pass to the second part of my exposé. It was beauty. Beauty on Alhambra as one of the messages of Alhambra. The first one is tolerance and dialogue and civilizations is possible and has a lot of results. I do not enter because Professor Moran will say on all the contributions of Al-Andalus to European culture in mathematics, arithmetics, astronomy, philosophy, agriculture, name it. For instance, it was not no wonder that it was us, Portugal and Spain, and not any other European nation, that we discovered America, that we discovered Africa, that we made the first inconversion to the world. Why? Because we have the knowledge, Al-Andalus, of astronomy and astrology. The astrology, for instance, that it was there the knowledge we had from our 700 years of it's not a surprise because of that. We knew more or less. Others didn't know. We knew that thanks to the culture and treasure during these hundreds of years of living together with Islam. So coming on the second beauty as a universal language that anybody can understand. So that is another element that Granada makes. From in its time, Everybody was conscious that Granada was a gem from the very start, not only for Christian kingdoms, but all the Christians in the rest of Europe who came to Granada to visit it. I mean, and even the emirs knew that they were creating, Yusuf I and Mohammed V, that they were creating really a paradise on earth. That is the title of our exhibition. So something exceptional, beautiful. And so in that time and in the history has always, Granada has always been the Alhambra, have been always, because they are nice palaces, but why Granada are not all, I mean, because when you visit them, you will see, and you will, why, I mean, you will why. In the 18th century, the Orientalists, I mean, painters in Europe, they take the Granada as one of the main sources of inspiration. In literature in the 20th century, even with stories of Alhambra, music, I mean, for so many composers, European ones that have been inspired by Alhambra. Alhambra is since 1984, UNESCO Human Heritage. Is the most visited monument in Spain. Is the only one in Spain that have a patronage for them since 19th century. We just designated monument, national monument in the 19th century. So for us, it's essential because it's part of our culture. But coming back, because it was the first message, coming back to beauty is of extraordinary beauty. Why? I will put some clues, but with the reading of today. I mean, for the reading of now young architectures. I mean, with some comments on now. The first, simplicity. You go and see the distribution of the palaces, the distribution of the town, the cities. You see, you feel simplicity. Oh, on the contrary. Nothing in Alhambra was made by chance, was led to chance. Everything is mathematically designed and mathematically conceived. But that is the lesson. It seems simple. That didn't seem bombastic or something. I mean, simple. But the work is back. Let's see, for instance, this Patio de Commerce, one of the masterpieces. You see, well, at the end of the day, well, it's to divan, but yes, a pound, water, and myrtles in the, yes. No, everything is thought there. In order, for instance, to mirror in the water exactly the facade, as the mirror of earth and paradise, heaven and earth. I mean, with many metric, it's not, because you see, well, it is not totally symmetry. Afterwards, with symmetry is the easiest way, no, to assure. I mean, okay, no, it's not. Sometimes it's not total symmetry, but it's perfectly mathematically calculated, and it's not simple, not simple at all, But this. Let's put another example. Not only is sophisticated, but everything has a lot of significance, spiritual and messages, and messages there. For instance, this is the courtyard of the Palace of the Lions. They wanted to transfer the paradise, and with the 4 rivers that Quran said that the paradise has. This is the 4, you see the canals, this is the 4 rivers, and even if it's all with marble, supposed to differentiate the 4 gardens of the, I mean, everything has symbolism, not only mathematically, I mean, not only technically, but too spiritually, had a symbolism, a message. The second, lessons for architects now. This is to obtain. La Alhambra is perfect for both schools, I mean, in architecture. The ones with more for more is more, and the ones that less is more. as far as domino. I mean, in the Alhambra, they have examples of both. Interior is more. Exterior is less is more. You see the garden, you see the courtyard, you see simplicity. Mathematically, that's simplicity. Inside, no, inside is more. I mean, and in all Alhambra, and mainly the palaces, they follow the same pattern. And I will explain here. The floors, and this is a good photograph because I may explain everything. Floors. In the courtyards and in the court and audience or very politically, I mean, reconnaissance courts, the floors were marble. In the other parts is clay. It's clay, again, clay, a typical, a specific from Granada, was very good on that. That is good for two motives. First, because it's very useful, and second, it keeps very good the cold and the warm, because Granada has extreme weather. In winter, it's very cold. Sierra Nevada is at the back with the snow, and in summer it's very hot. So the floors, the first on the walls, the first layer always is the same. Is tiles. Why? To think about it, because it's the most exposure place of you can touch, you can. I mean, so utility and beauty at the same time. With tiles, and Granada were absolutely masters in tiles. As a matter of fact, we continue in Granada. You go to Granada, there's still the school of tiles. So wonderful color, and as it was not permitted representation of humans or animals, but yes, mathematical and geometric sound. And so with all possible combinations of geometry. The second part of the walls was plaster. Plaster, and here says horror vacui. There is not a single space in the whole Granada without decoration. And there were three types of decoration. Geometric decoration, sepka. There was vegetal decoration, atauric, and calligraphy decoration. As you know, calligraphy is in itself an art in Muslim culture. And it had very different calligraphy, Kufic and Tulut. Mainly are the two types of calligraphy mainly employed, with many things with the motto of the kingdom, only God is victorious, but two of poems. In Samrak was the official, so to say, poet in the national, or the most well-known in the national kingdom, and all over the walls. That does include too, as you see, in the indoors. In the indoors of the arcs, and the ceilings. The ceilings were made with reinforced of mukarnas. Mukarnas is a piece of normally of wood, three-dimensional, that when you put is good on the ceilings, but it's a plasters in the rest of. We see examples of plasters in the photo afterwards. So I make an impression of absolutely amazing. I mean, it's like a stalactites for a wood. And many of them has to a spiritual sense. For instance, there is one of the couples that represents the seventh heavens. In the Islam paradise, for instance, that the effect is impressive. I mean, all of them are put together without clues. I put together. I mean, with the wood without clues. An example of plaster. You see in the ceilings, plaster. It's the same mukarnas, but plaster. I mean, the effect is great. And so that means that the technique of the articrafts in Granada was the highest in Europe at that time, and using very humble materials. They created a lavish, totally lavish architecture with very humble materials, with clay, with wood. That was one of the reasons why it was so popular. because, I mean, for instance, let's see, again, the palace of Pedro I. To create that in Christian, I mean, architecture, that it was not so sophisticated, it was a stone, it was, I forgot, much more than a fortune that it costed to do, I mean, and the results were much better. I mean, more nice, more beautiful, and more impressive, because some of these, at the end of the day, was to a palace, were made to impress, were made to impress. Were made to impress. For foreigners, ambassadors were there. I mean, I have visited the court of Granada, my goodness. And they come back saying, my goodness, the court of Granada is incredible, it's amazing. And two, inside, for opposition, etc., to say, look, I am the Mir, I am the king. I mean, I have some power. I mean, so that has this message. The third, and I'm concluding, third element is a very stylish and light and slender, I mean, architecture. Let's put an example. This is the Court of the Lions, and how they do it. Look at the columns. The columns are absolutely thin. This is a typical Nasrid Granada columns. Thin columns, very small pedestal, I mean, long fused, long trunks, I mean, and it's slender and thin, because they wanted to resemble palm trees. There's a palm trees, an oasis in the desert. This was the signification of the paradise. I repeat you, the four rivers, and then, I mean, the oasis in a desert. I mean, on top, the mastery. They don't need, the European need, in order to impress that, they need a lot of extension. No, this meant in relatively small spaces. But the impression is amazing. For instance, in Alhambra is so important for us that in Alhambra Spain had the European Union presidency. We have 6 months. We rotate, and the last we have last semester, last year, and each country organized a European summit that is of the head of states and prime ministers of all the 27 member states, and we organized it. Can you imagine where we organize that? We have many palaces in Spain. It's not because we are run of palaces and extraordinary and impressive places to read it in La Alhambra. And the kings were receiving all the people here. In front of that, exactly in that. And everybody who entered was, oh my goodness, what does it mean? I mean, that's remember, and the message was, no, this is the contribution not only for Spain, the contribution for Europe. I mean, it was a contribution for Europe. So anyway, but we come back to the capitals. Very slender too, the capitals. And one trick to even make the things more slender. You see on the capitals, normally you put the capitals and afterwards you put the ark. No, you mentioned they elevate. On the capital, there is 1 and 2 elevations. And what is the result? The result is that the straight line is wider and the rise of the arc is higher. The result, normally, an arc could have been, you can imagine an arc, no? Okay, like that. Okay, and so the vision should have been lowered, and so make impression of more loud. I mean, it's not lightness. With this effect, they put lightness on that. So elegance, I mean, fourth, and I'm listening. Fourth is another lessons for contemporary architects. The combination, the living together, the speaking together, interior and exterior. That you are used, but because you have a wonderful weather. I mean, that I mean, interior and exterior, gardens and interior, nature and construction, because garden was too a representation of paradise. And so with a very, this case, combining water, but water not in a bombastic way. No, water in this way. The rumor of the water on the floors, and as far as the garden orchard. That's another big contribution of to Europe. I mean, specify election of the vegetable that you plant. They came sometimes very far to, I mean, combinations, for instance, of nuts. There are flowers, I mean, bushes, the myrtle, and fruit trees, the orange. If you go to Seville, for instance, in April, it was in the time of, all the city smell to azar. Again, a word coming from Arabic. That is to say, the flower of the orange tree. Oh, is incredible. I mean, in April, I advise you to visit Sevilla. All the cities smell to that, and it was because of the Arabic way of gardens. And look, an example. The interior, I mean, everything with vegetables, with nature, and inside and outside nature as a part of a continuous part of living. And finally, and it is not funable, the fifth lessons of La Alhambra to contemporary architects. La Alhambra was the first, historically speaking, sustainable city in the world. Not only because of the water, not everybody had water. No, the canalization of the water. Massive in Spain improved the water management in which the Romans were masters. I mean, they improved to do and to apply to agriculture. And so, I mean, the canals of the water made the city sustainable. They create on top of garden orchards. The most historical and oldest orchards perhaps in the world are the orchards in the Alhambra, in Generalife. Still are exactly the same way the 700 years ago, no, 700, no, 500 years ago, 600 years ago, were planified in Alhambra. The maintenance of Alhambra is extremely expensive. Extremely expensive. Why? First, because it is good that you use humble materials, but it's not marble, it's not good, and it's not plaster. So you continually need restoration. I mean, it's extremely expensive. The same with the orchards and the gardens. No, but I mean, it's not a question of money. We are very proud to invest all the money. I mean, in the Alhambra, but for us, is a wonderful place. So it was sustainable not only as far as agriculture and orchards, not only about the use of water, but too in the architecture itself and the distribution of internal spaces, taking into account, as I say to you, that profiting the sunlight in winter time, avoiding it in winter time, in summertime, to maintain, I mean, sustainability and architecture that now is so important. So I lived here. I mean, so sorry for being so long. I'm very passionate because for us, La Alhambra, we love La Alhambra. So we are very passionate in La Alhambra. And so no wonder that it's the most visited, and I repeat, monument in Spain. And we receive so many foreigners and all over the world, mainly devoted to, we understand, the Muslim world, I mean, that see reflection of how one of the summits, historically, on Islam, but for us too, it was one of the summits of our own history. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your enlightening remarks. And it shows how, Alhambra is showing the power of diversity and collaboration in creating a rich and vibrant society. And it also teaches us how mathematics actually is the language of universe, and it bridges between the tangible and the abstract. And it's the manifest of a hidden symmetry and harmony. And in life also, mathematics is the silent architect of our existence, and shaping the patterns of nature, the rhythms of music, and also the very structure of our thoughts. And in understanding these patterns, we glimpse in the divine, and seeing in mathematics a reflection of the order and beauty of God's creation. So we move to our next speaker, who is Professor Dato Murad Merican, a renowned academic and cultural historian. And Professor Murad's extensive research and publications have significantly contributed to our understanding of culture, history, and heritage preservation. So without further ado, we call upon Professor Murad. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Dain. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dr. Professor Aziz Bagood, His Excellency, Thank you for your passion and your elaborate illumination of Alhambra. I don't have the opportunity of consuming Alhambra. I only had the opportunity to visit recently. I thought that's by default. I'm here today because I told the dean that I'll be visiting. So, he asked me to speak today. My approach is slightly different, perhaps an opposite view of what the ambassador said. But I want to ask you a question: Is Miguel de Cervantes, Don Quixote, was he influenced by the Alhambra? I suppose he was. Uh, now, I will talk about partly the Malay response, the Malay world, Malay view response at the popular level on Alhambra and Al-Andalus. Putting the context of Al-Andalus, Alhambra, the symbol of Al-Andalus. And the other is the background of Muslim Spain, because many of us in Malaysia or outside of Spain would know the foreground. The narrative is the foreground. The background is intense and dramatic. The background is colorful, fluid, and it's important to have some insights into the background in order for us to understand the foreground or the narrative that we think that we understand now. Okay? One aspect, yes, it's of tolerance. The other aspect is the idea of intolerance that has happened in Spain, especially after 1492. And we know that what has happened in Spain resonates here in the Malay archipelago. I'll come back to that. But first, I want to tell you my experience on the theme of Muslims in Spain. This was in 1984. I was a student at the University of Minnesota. And at the university, we have the campus newspaper, Minnesota Daily. It's a daily newspaper. And I would write op-ed pieces for the newspaper on various topics. One day, I wrote about the Muslims in Spain, because at that time, in the early 80s, there were debates, post-Iranian Revolution debates, Islamic extremism, fundamentalism, and so on. So such debates was raised in campus. So I thought that I would defend the Muslims. So I wrote, and this is what I said, the gist, that when the purge began, 2 million Muslims and Jews were killed in Spain. I sent it to the newspaper. Normally, it takes about a few days or 1 week for them to publish the op-ed page. But I waited for 2 weeks, it didn't come out. So I went to the paper's office and asked. The editor said he would not publish my piece because it promotes the Muslims. And because I'm a Muslim student, therefore I'm not qualified to write about the politics of Islam. So this is one example of the bigotry and the prejudice of American press freedom. There is, and he said that they would get an American professor to write about the life of Andalus in Spain. Second is that over the years, I find that Muslims in Malaysia would develop this nostalgia of the loss of Alhambra. They would transmit a narrative of grievance, a nostalgic narrative that we were there 500 years back, and then suddenly we lost. And there's this there's this narrative that perhaps to me is quite negative. It doesn't move. It's not progressive. I do feel it that way. Yes, I visited. I mean, some of us may have visited Cordoba and Alhambra. Yeah, it is structure. It is a symbol. But to limit its loss, I think may not be in the menu. What Alhambra is also is an architecture that is an intersection between mathematics and poetry. The walls are covered with messages, and the builders engage poets to build the structure. It is like a building that is a media, a building that communicates. In most of the discourses which I read, they will give examples of the pyramid in Egypt, in Mexico, some churches, but not Alhambra as an example of a building that has a communication bias. So when I went there, I think this is a new one. Okay? It has a communication bias. It communicates vertically and horizontally. And you can see that it is very clear. Even Isuzu did not mention it in his book, Islam and Quranic Weltanschauung. So that is but the Malays lamented it as a lost. And also when I was there in Cordoba and Alhambra, we had tour guides, Spanish, and they did a good job. They explained to us objectively. They mentioned some Arabic words, mainly to say some must be expressed in Arabic. And the group that was me was impressed and puzzled at the same time. Impressed because two Catholics, two Christians are able to articulate objectively and suspend their judgment on the culture of Islam. And they asked whether these tour guides knew Arabic, one lady and one gentleman. They say yes, they studied Arabic, they studied Spanish history, they studied Arabic history, and that's why they managed to give us a brilliant tour of the place. Again, this group of Malays, and these are professionals, PhDs, a few medical doctors, many are PhDs, they were puzzled. How come they're not Muslims? I mean, and this is, why are they not drawn to Islam? So this is the common consciousness among I mean, I'm making criticism of Malays and Muslims here, just because a non-Muslim knows Arabic, intimate with Islamic history, but there's no hidayah. So again, this is a big question mark on our part. Okay? Some of us may criticize me, but I would say that it is part of that objective cultural internalization that we speak English, we can draw up histories of Britain and Europe, but we're not Christians. So again, but I find it strange. I'm putting myself inside and outside of my society at the time, right? In how the Malays that I know of in KL and in Malaysia generally respond to Alhambra, respond to that kind of information. Also, what dawned upon me is the discourse on the Panglima Awang. Okay? Panglima Awang is the Malay hero, elevated as a hero. The first person to circumnavigate the world with Magellan. Magellan died in Mactan, and he continued. And Panglima Awang is not his name. We don't know his real name. Panglima Awang is a fiction, a name given by another novelist. But his actual name actually was Enrique de Malacca. In English, it's Henry, Henry the Black. But in Spanish, it's Enrique de Malacca. Now, we may say that Enrique is just a label on that person, that the Malays have elevated to be a hero. I spoke on Panglima Awang here in this room in 2019. looking at Panglibawang not in the nostalgic sense, but in the sense of revising Malay history as such. But Enrique was baptized. You see, when I read about Enrique, when I read Pigafetta's notes on Enrique, and when Enrique was captured by Magellan in 1511, he was brought back to Spain, to the Iberian Peninsula, okay? Not Spain, Portugal, but to Iberia. And there he became a Christian. He was baptized and he married Magellan's sister. And he was there for what? 10 years. And he came back. So again, it's not a supposition, it's a fact. That you can see, okay, when we read Pigafetta's notes that he was baptized, not many Malays would take it for a fact. Not many of us here at that time would take it for a fact. We thought that, yeah, this is because we look at things from today's perspective. But if we were to know the background of the society in Iberia at that time, we will understand. And we will not question, because some of us question whether he actually internalized himself as a Christian. But I doubt that he refused to be baptized. So the background of Iberia is something fantastic, both sad and happy at the same time. And this brings to the existence of the Moriscos, which is very much near also to this part of the world. And my encounter with the Morisco is through the song Keroncong Morisco. There's a genre in Malay music, Keroncong. Keroncong is a fusion. What was narrated was a fusion between the Portuguese and Malay instruments. It became the name Keroncong. And the first Keroncong was called Keroncong Morisco. Who are the Moriscos? Moriscos were here. We're talking about the period from 1511 onwards until 1620s, during that period. And we have to know that in the Malay archipelago, the Spanish were also here, not only the Portuguese. But we tend to separate Portuguese and Spanish. So the Spanish were here in 1521, very close. Right? They were here, they were in the Philippines, and the Philippines is Malay. And they came through the Pacific Ocean. And when they came, it was during that purge period across the Atlantic. So there could be elements of Islam, there could be elements of culture of Andalus that crossed the Atlantic to Acapulco, Mexico, and across the Pacific to Luzon. So again, there is this proximity. We're talking about 500 years. We're talking about 5 centuries. We're talking about perhaps maybe 20 generations. Okay? There is this proximity. So the Moriscos were here. And in the narrative, it says that the Moriscos were Portuguese. Could be, but I would say that they are Iberian. Okay? And these Moriscos, their songs have this the lament over the slavery. They lament over them being slaves and they want to release themselves. Okay? So it became a song, Keroncong Morisco. You can Google it. And this is the encounter between the Alhambra, Al-Andalus, and the Malays in history and the Malay archipelago. I want to make some reference to some narratives. Okay, first of all, when I was reading about Al-Andalus, I found several characters, actually. The dramatis persona. You have mentioned some names. And the tour guide, I remember, mentioned some names. I saw some names in the literature. I'll just read out to you some of these names. Boad Bill, the last, the last Sultan of the Nasrid kingdom. And then Abu al-Hasan Ali, the 22nd Nasrid Sultan of Granada and father of Boabdil. Aiza Lahora, I don't know, wife of Abu al-Hasan and mother of his sons Boabdil and Yusuf and daughter Aizia. And then Abu Abdullah Muhammad bin Ali, Muhammad the 10th, known as Boabdil, 23rd and last Nasrid Sultan of Granada. Isabel de Solis or Zoraya, converted Christian, lover of Abu al-Hasan and mother of his two sons Sa'ad and Nasr. Moraima, wife of Boabdil and daughter of Ali al-Attar, governor of Loya. And then the two famous names, King Ferdinand II of Aragon, which we studied in history. Now it's close proximity. We study Alhambra and Al-Andalus. When we studied in history, those are names. But this is King Ferdinand II of Aragon, son of King Juan II of Aragon. And then Queen Isabella I of Castile, daughter of King Juan II of Castile and wife of Ferdinand II of Aragon. These are some of the major names that were actors in the court of both the Muslim and the Christian courts. It's not only the Muslim court, but both. See, what I discovered is the fluidity, the interaction, the cultural interaction, religious interaction, the fluidity of movements, the fluidity of identity, prejudice, conspiracy, and so on. I want to read out this passage just to give you an idea. Don't worry if you don't understand. Don't worry that this may be out of context. Some believe he gave up the villages and districts he ruled to Castile. This is Sidi Yahya. You may know him. To Castile as an act of revenge on his nephew, since by his action Granada was cut off from the rest of the world. Okay? This is an example of the intrigues. Perhaps he realized matters had gone too far to permit any hope of resisting the Christian advance, but it seems likely that he was also sparked by the bitter family feud. Before long, he sold his estates for another 30,000 Castellanos, and to the relief of Ferdinand and Isabella, crossed the sea to Oran in Algeria, your country, with his most loyal followers. Zoraya did not go with him, but stayed behind in Christian territory. And documents preserved in the Samanchas archive show that in 1494, she was still a Muslim living in Cordoba, where she stayed until the end of the 15th century. This clever, calculating woman had apparently hoped to prevent her sons from converting to Christianity, and their former nanny, Ridwan Matran, stated in a testimony she swore to be true that Zoraya had made over the title of a property in the Al-Kazaba Kadima, as well as the jewels and perfumes, to the secretary Hernando de Zafra in exchange for his unsuccessful intervention on her behalf with the Catholic monarchs, whom she asked to allow her sons to go into exile in North Africa. This is a glimpse of the intricacies that happened in the courts. Subsequently, I'd like to read this passage that shows the landscape, because my early understanding would be that there was this coexistence. Yes, there was this coexistence. There was this neighborhood, kingdoms that were neighbors, Christians and Muslims, to agree to disagree. And this is the landscape which I discovered here. The land frontier that delimited the territory of the Granadan Emirate consisted of about 11,600 square miles, or what is now Eastern Andalusia, and it had existed for nearly 250 years when Boabdil became Sultan in 1482. The territory was a paradoxical place of peace and also of hostility. Paradoxical place of peace and hostility, both. We find this contradiction. There, truces were fulfilled and goods exchanged, while daily hostilities and confrontation created a permanent need for both defense and attack along the border. So you see this paradox, this contradiction in the livelihood. The truces helped to suspend and diffuse large-scale hostilities and ease the pressure of the intense life of frontier coexistence, where at times relations were peaceful and even neighborly, but mostly consisted of rivalry, violence, and reprisal. There were some measures in place for maintaining peaceful coexistence on a daily basis in the form of the juez de frontera, or frontier judge, a kind of arbitrator between Moors and Christians. And usually there was one representative from either side, both whom resolved the petitions of the opposing group. There was also a special frontier police, the Fieres de Rastro and Exias, or interpreters, who were indispensable for commerce in the exchange of captives between the two parties and as guides for merchants. So you can see that this was the scenario, the background of what happened in Muslim Spain, or what Muslim Christian Spain. I mean, the period was in the 14th century, I think 14th to 16th century. So this is the background that you have to understand in terms of its present implications. I went through some of the literature in terms of both historical and contemporary. Yeah, I find that what has happened over the last 5 centuries, 500 years, over 20 generations, vivid and powerful in our consciousness. Some commentaries by European intellectuals and novelists. Alexander Dumas, you will remember him, the author of Three Musketeers. He said that, and among other foreign observers, he said that Africa begins in the Pyrenees. Meaning to say that the Iberian Peninsula was part of Africa. Yeah? And in the 19th century, many foreign writers also sentimentalizes this idea of Spain, and looking at it as the last outpost of the Catholics. They call it Catholic bigotry as such. And they also talk about the null element in civilization, in the now civilizing element in Spain. In other words, there is this intention to recognize and to celebrate, as what you just said, and the other is to not see it as existing in Spain, because it has distorted Spain's past and Spain's future, and it has this resonate into the policy of the European Union with regard to coexistence, with regard to multiculturalism, with regard to the taking of immigrants into Europe. And this was echoed by several quote-unquote disruptors of the modern age, we can put it that way, Al-Qaeda and so on. This is what we found. This is from Osama bin Laden and his deputy, Ayman al-Zawahiri, in October 2001. Let the world know that we shall never accept that the tragedy of Al-Andalus should be repeated. This was found in the videotape. In other words, I don't know whether this was covered in the media, but again, when I found this, I thought that, yeah, the very powerful resonance from Al-Qaeda and a few others. 911. See, 911 is a powerful, it's not really 911, but it's 1978, 79, Iranian Revolution, 911, ISIS. These are the episodes that disrupted the linear model of modernization and modernity, the lecture that we had. Basically, it disrupted that. It disrupted European exceptionalism. And then the Madrid bombings, 2004, words like the loss of Al-Andalus was justification for the death of the train operations in Madrid. So again, we do not get that in the media, but we got that in the other narratives. And then also 911, this September 11, Zacharias Masui, sounds like Algerian or Moroccan, I'm not sure. He said, or rather he demanded the return of Spain to the Moors. Yeah, this came out, in the such events of what we call Islamic terrorism and extremism. And also there was a lecture in 2004 in Georgetown University, Washington, by your Prime Minister, Jose Maria Aznar. He claimed that the problem Spain has with Al-Qaeda and Islamic terrorism did not begin with the Iraq crisis. In fact, it has nothing to do with government decisions. We must go back no less than 1,300 years to the 8th century, when Spain, recently invaded by the Moors, refused to become just another piece of Islamic world and began a long battle to recover its identity. This is what he said. So most of us may not realize this sentiment. So the debate went on and inserted itself in contemporary discourses. I want to move to this the post Andalus of the 500,000 Muslims that remain in Spain. Many of them went across the straits to Algeria, Morocco, and so on, but 500,000 remain. And again, our guide, I remember some of the guides told us that, yeah, I mean, we have this, when we walked up to the view of the palace, yeah, and it was a Jewish quarter, I think, there, and we were told that, yeah, at that time, there was forced conversion. And so the Moriscos emerge in history, but pale in history. They emerge, they appear, but because here in this part of the world, we don't know anything about the Moriscos except for the Keroncong Morisco. But there's a vast literature about the Moriscos. So the Morisco, amid the self-congratulation of celebration, represent the darker side of Spain's imperial past. They were forgotten, they were neutralized, and perhaps little attention was paid to them. It was difficult not to be moved by the predicament of these Muslims turned Christians who spoke Arabic, or rather who spoke Spanish, but wrote in Arabic. Spoke Spanish, but wrote in Arabic. Who were regarded as bad Christians by Spanish Catholics and bad Muslims by their co-religionists, which even after the expulsion were torn by the conflicting attachments to the Islamic faith and their Spanish homeland. Again, it conjures questions upon questions on the identity of the Arabs. I know the Andalus were populated by Arabs from Yemen and from North Africa. There was also Spanish Muslims, but again, to us in Malaysia, the popular sentiment in Malaysia is not clear. Okay? In fact, not many books about Andalus was written. One of the earliest books I remember was written by Professor Aizan Baharuddin. I think this was in the 80s when she was studying in the UK. She visited Alhambra and she was excited, so she wrote a book. She's a professor at the University of Malaya now. So again, we find this this diversity in identity. Since then, since the expulsion, and expulsion was a representation of a painful past for both Muslim and Christians. It has generated this particular xenophobia among especially in the European continent, of a failed multicultural assumption, of a failed multicultural state. And multiculturalism has failed, actually. It was denounced in Europe that and especially the Muslim population in France, in Germany, in Britain, that they realize that multiculturalism anywhere in the world assumes a dominant hegemony. There cannot be an equal status kind of existence. Australia also realized this. So again, this was what has come of Europe. So the Moriscos, and as a result of what happened in Andalus, was a great reminder of this perhaps what is to come, what is to be termed as the clash of civilizations. And the clash of civilizations was regarded as mainly the clash between Muslims and the Judeo-Christian world. So again, what we can learn is that we cannot force assimilation. Okay? We can live in terms of coexistence, but there is there may be an intolerance in forced assimilation, whether identity-wise or religion, in this world. So I think this is one lesson that the world can learn from the loss of, or rather, the damage of Al-Andalus. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Murad. So, Prof. Murad, he's a historian, so he deconstructing, the analytical context of history of Spain. So, we now open the session. Oh, if you have any questions, okay, we open the floor to any questions, please. Yes, sure.
Can I? Well, one of the lessons that an Indian can learn from today's talk by His Excellency, the Ambassador, is that we need to be, as Indians, equally proud of our Muslim heritage. Unfortunately, we are strapped with a government that is not just living in disbelief, but also in denial of the great Muslim heritage. I hope you could give them a lesson or two.
I cannot enter to only saying that for us we are very proud of our Muslim heritage. I cannot enter in other countries. I think India has a wonderful tour experience with the Mughal area, etc. But I cannot enter on how each country manage their own history.
Sure, please, Akram.
Your Excellency, thank you very much for your presentation. Nice photographs, visual data you shared with us. My question is about any speakers touch the issue of the locality of Iber Peninsula. So these North African Muslims conquered this land. They developed the civilizational institutions, the ones you shared with us. But we do not see the importance of locality. Where is the place of locals? I mean, the materials, the skilled laborers, the ideas. Just these modern and North African Muslims carried all these ideas, the things to Iber Peninsula and build up. Or implicitly, Murat Merikan mentioned that intercultural dimensions. I believe that it worked over there, but the materially what we know, I mean, pre-Muslim era, Iber Peninsula created any cultural, civilizational things. Then Arab Muslims inculcated, learned, cooperated with the locals, and they developed these nice places. Thank you very much.
I'm not extremely expert. Professor, I'm speaking in Al-Andalus, I mean, and in Spain. Of course, a lot of the Christian kingdoms learn a lot from Andalusian and in Muslim kingdoms, but Muslim kingdoms still learned a lot from Christian kingdoms too. I mean, so in several aspects of it, and so it is. Granada culture is not 1492. Is not Moroccan culture. Even close, they are. It's not. Fez was not Marrakesh. Was not Granada. For instance, you know better than me in the history of Islam. There are many differences. I mean, branches of Islam, etc., etc. No, the Islam who came in the at the beginning, for instance, is there's a lot of difference. For instance, of the Islam that took Taghi Musa and the Islam who took Abdurrahman III. Nothing to do. I mean, the Islam who came with the Umayyads was extremely exquisite one, cultivated, cultured. Taghi Musa were more Berber, were another kind of, culture. So it was different. I mean, that's why the main, in my viewpoint, the golden age of Al-Andalus is Cordoba, and the Caliphate of Cordoba. So the Umayyads that flown from being massacred by the Abbasids from Iraq, and they threw him. They were massacred by Abbasids, and only the one surviving was Abdurrahman that came to Spain and to create first an emirate and afterwards an independent emirate. Caliphate. Sorry, independent in Cordoba. So they changed, and the mosque was not seen to Baghdad. No, we still to Al-Quds, not to Baghdad anymore. These kind of things. So violence has been everywhere, in every time of life, in every. But as far as coming back to Al-Andalus, it was different, very different. No? For instance, in the fitna, in order to put order in the civil war in the Taifas kingdoms. Some of the kingdom asked for help of Berber people from Morocco. More fundamentalist, meteorologically speaking, and it was tough for many Muslim kingdoms in Spain to accept that, because they were much intransigent, intolerant within the Ummah. I'm not saying against, no, within the Ummah. Almoravids and Almohads, both. Perhaps Almohads a bit more, but anyway, both, because they have a different vision of Islam that that Umayyads have, for instance. So it's very different. Nasrid kingdom is very different too. If you see, for instance, the poetry in Granada, everybody speaks about wine, life. Everybody, even in Alhambra, there are a lot of verses that praising wine, or life, and that it was to a question of just living with Christians, so to say, to exchanging views of, in Grenada, wine was served, because, cigars make a glass not to drink only water, So, I use the pleasures of life. Al-Mutamid, of Seville, another summit of poetry in Al-Andalus. So, it was very different. So, I think we cannot, I think it's a fact. You cannot tell Al-Andalus a block. No. As you cannot take Christian kingdom as a block. There were a lot of alliances among Christian kingdoms and Muslim kingdoms. As you see on not all the 700 was, was diverse, because the logic was that. It was a logic. For once, this was my land and I recovered it. For others, no, I took the land and I maintain it. So there's some logic there, no? But anyway, the important thing, I think, is that on top of chapters that an intolerance, in my view, came, I think, historical, came precisely, that was the lesson of Al-Andalus too in general, came after 1492 in Europe. During, and because, in Europe began the wars of religion among us, Christians, Lutherans, Catholics, Protestants, etc., etc. everybody against everybody, very viciously, very viciously, very viciously, with hundreds of thousands of deaths. I mean, very viciously among us. I mean, two war of religions against us. I mean, so and things became much more intolerant. Intolerance. I mean, all over Europe, including my country. All over Europe, including my country. When this kind of expulsion of the Jews, the expulsions of the Moriscos, for instance, the expulsion of Muslims after that came to was a disaster for the country. Was economically speaking a disaster for the country, because I mean, Jews were good in financing, and Muslims were very good in the rest. I mean, in agriculture, in trade. I mean, because they have in the blood. I mean, I mean, trade. I mean, was a disaster. That at the time it's so risky, not to apply concept of today to the history. I mean, back in that was in Europe was the intolerance of the intolerance, for instance, in Britain against Catholics, for instance. In Catholic countries, you got Protestants in France, for instance. The Night of San Bartholomew, for instance. I mean, so I mean, it's questions that Alhambra is a lesson to, because intolerance, real intolerance, I mean, became no, it was the example of tolerance. Yes, I agree. I mean, there always problems. But you look, for instance, the literature for la literatura de frontera, literature of border, because during this time there were border, I mean, territories that were several times neither Christians nor Muslims. I mean, so I mean, there is this literature of frontier, what was called, that is what that was very cavalrous, so to say. I mean, not of course in each side they won yours. I mean, I don't know. So you got poem, etc. But so respectful to the adversary, so respectful. I mean, and even elegant. I mean, on top of the literary qualities of that. So, and so I understand this is a when we try to now, for instance, of situation, no, or Islam in Europe or another countries. I understand that is difficult for us too. For us too. I mean, for us. I mean, generally. I mean, no, but really, there was a lot of let's say, so to say, contributions of new people who came in Al-Andalus in each of the reigns. I mean, the best taifas were any that. The ones in which tolerance were the rule, and in the Christian kingdoms too. I mean, for us too, the golden age is Alfonso X el Sabio in Toledo. I mean, for instance. So when intolerance became to be the rule and not the exception, it became the problems. I mean, and the problems, and second, the prejudices. It's true. If you go to, I mean, all over. And you see the books of prejudices that we have. But look the books, the prejudices in Protestant countries against Catholics. Read them. And on the other way around, it was prejudice everywhere. Everywhere were prejudices. And sometimes even, see, alliances, I mean, it was prejudice. And so we cannot judge from now on that it was and I think that is important. When you feel comfortable, regardless of problems, etc. I have passed half of my diplomatic career in Arab countries, Muslim countries. I feel so comfortable. And in each, I have seen such a positive approach to Spain as a country. but Spanish people especially, and we feel this, this is because of our common history in Al-Andalus. I mean, in other countries, from Maghreb to Masrek, at least, I mean, and I have visited all the countries from Morocco to Iraq, so to say. I mean, even with the problems, even, of course, we understand each other, especially. We have special sensitiveness to that. That means that we feel comfortable with, knowing the prejudice, knowing absolutely, but we feel comfortable in people-to-people level. And that is why, for instance, and I conclude with that, one of the pillars. I'm a diplomat, so and I speak a bit of foreign policy.
Thank you.
One of the pillars of our foreign policy always has been relation with other countries. Always is one of the pillars. We have 3 pillars. I mean, 3, 4. Europe, because we are like that. On top, we are a peninsula. It's like Malayan Peninsula. Peninsulas, everybody has come here. So we are peninsula. We are not close countries. We are at the center. We are peninsulas. Okay, the Romans, Visigoths, Greeks, everybody passed through. So we are Europeans. We are Americans. We are Mediterraneans. This is a 3, main Mediterranean means to the connection with our, and it has always been like that, regardless of the situation of our, for instance, in the dictatorship, we have been dictatorship, Franco dictatorship, 40 years, relations with Arab countries were very good, because it has been always very good. No wonder that we recognize Palestine. It's not no wonder. It's not against nobody. It is against nobody. It is against nobody. We have 2 Jewish history in our country. Yes, we're very proud too. We are not against anybody, but it is not no wonder, for instance. But anyway, it's just to, and I think that is important when we speak about people-to-people relations, and people who visit Spain. Is to, for our countries, very, comfortable. That there is problems. Of course, we have all challenges, all challenges, and mainly now in Europe with some misunderstandings, misconceptions, but anyway, I have answered your question.
Yes.
Thank you. So sorry.
Thank you.
Maybe as I think what also what Dr. Mehmet would want to hear is, are there any local genius in Spain? Of course. When we talk about architecture, when we talk about culture, when we talk about the genius loci, in architecture, you call it genius loci. It's a culture building upon another. Like, for example, Cordoba. It's not just a plain tabula rasa and there you have the mosque. The pillars on Cordoba was Roman. So again, before the Muslims came, it was Toledo, was the capital, cultural capital of Catholic Spain. When the Muslims came, also Toledo initially. So again, that shows that the indigenous Spanish culture was derived, as your history says, from the Visigoth, and then it was built. The Romans came. Of course, Roman colonialism is very much a factor in the Western Europe, Anglo-Saxon rule and Iberian Peninsula, very much conscious and very much visible architecture and culture, and the structures were, one of which stage was built by the Romans, and then built by the Muslims, and built by the Catholics on the same spot, the same place, same place. One column Roman, the other column on top of it will be Muslims. On top of it will be the Catholics. You can see in Cordoba. You can see also in the Alhambra. So this is what happened in Spain at the time. At the same time, I think we need to look at Alhambra and Al-Andalus in the larger context of European history, because what happened then was on the verge of the collapse of the Catholic Church. which has ruled Europe for 1,500 years. Okay, so in about late 1400s, the Catholic Church began to collapse, and Martin Luther came to the picture, Protestantism, and so on, and book burnings were common. Okay? The Catholics, the Protestants. I asked this Bodleian Library in Oxford. They were quite irritated at my questions. I told them, "Do you burn books?" They first denied. After so many questions, they asked me, "Who am I?" I say, "I'm just a visitor." But in the end, they cannot avoid it. Yeah, they burn books. They burn Catholic books. The Anglicans, the Protestant, burn. So the Oxford Library was had book burning ceremonies. So again, when you see the collapse of one dominant culture, the culture that replaces it would want to displace and destroy that previous culture. So that was happened. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
And they had beautiful trees, and they member of the politics would say, okay, this time we plant this particular plant. Okay, when he steps down, the entire plant is what do you call that? Just replaced, and a new plant comes in. They have Shah Alam, the like
Yeah.
what do you call that? I think it's from history that they
Yes,
have
thank
to
you.
be united. So
Yes.
Christians have lived with the Jews and the I think the people itself wants to be united.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Just one more. You see, in terms of tolerance, two huge Jewish ghettos in Europe, in Budapest and Madrid. I mean, in Spain. So again, they have lived there for thousands of years. So again, we can see these things. I visited both. Another thing, another context is that you see, you see many factions, many small kingdoms in Spain at that time. It's a common phenomenon in Western Europe. Hence the 100 Years' War. Hence the war that ended up with the Treaty of Westphalia in 1648 that created the idea of the nation state. So again, the background was as such, but there were wars, and the Treaty of Westphalia created that peace in Europe, which actually was the war was extended to another theater, which is Southeast Asia, the Malay world. So they brought in the war. The peace in Europe brought the war in this part of the world. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. There are many questions, but it serves as a reminder that the decline of Islamic civilization was not primarily due to external factors, but rather stemmed from internal issues, such as arrogance also and a lack of humility. And this perspective offers a poignant lesson for Muslims today, the importance of self-reflection, humility, and addressing internal shortcomings to prevent the repetition of history. And as Ibn Khaldun famously says, civilization die from within and not from only external forces. Okay, there's one question from Professor Khalik. Professor Khalik, are you there? Professor Khalik? Okay, please.
Hello, Your Excellency. I wish to ask is there any, I have some throat, is there any what legacy of Andalusia in terms of music that still sticks until today? Is flamenco part of it? One question. Second question, you've been around this campus. Yeah, no, you don't mind, just, you've been around this campus, which tries to emulate to a certain extent Alhambra. Yeah, so how do you see it yourself? Okay.
The first question, yes, yes, of course, mainly in Andalusia, music, mainly in Andalusia. First, cante hondo and flamenco,
Flamenco.
and on top of guitar, laúd, etc. That came from. It was an introduction from Muslims. I mean, lute and guitar. What is the Spanish guitar? The classical now Spanish guitar came from lute, etc., etc. So, and as far as flamenco and cante hondo, the singing has a lot of. There are a lot of influences in flamenco. There are Indian influences in the rhythms. It's not for the gypsies who came 1,000 years, I mean, from India, I mean, and the use of hands is the only dance in Europe, the only ones in which hands has an expressive role. Not only it's not has an expressive role, hands, because Indian influence of the Odyssey, another traditional. I mean, so and from the singing, and the music, some course of music, Andalusian music, as a matter of fact, Andalusian music is common for all of us. It's common from Morocco, for Algeria, for Tunisia, from another. At that time, the accords, were Andalusian music, classical Andalusian music. I'm saying from that. And there are a lot of, for example, mix. There are a lot of ensembles of music. That made collaboration. Because it's very. And I would say that. Yes, there is a clear influence on. Now you must dig a bit. That is, you find the way of singing at some tones. It's not evident. It's not evident. I'm digging in normal pop music. Not. In flamenco, in cante hondo, of course, in cante hondo even more, because the singing even more clearly the Muslim influences on flamenco dancing, on set, on of course the guitar, lute, etc. And even in Islamic pop music, there's some accords. I don't know how to explain to you, but it's different from the rest of Europe, and it is true the influences of Latin America too. Of course, we are friends. We are brothers. But there are two elements of that on top, and it was mentioned that the influences that we transfer to America. The Islamic influence that gave to America. For instance, a lot of architecture. There, if you go to America and churches that were built at the time of the 15th or 16th century, much after the end of Al-Andalus, but that at the 19th century, a lot of palaces, Santiago de Chile, the Alhambra palaces, a lot of civilian architecture of the new Arab, that was quite in fashion in Europe. Even in Crystal Palace, there was the Alhambra kiosk. It was disappeared by a fire. For instance, it was in fashion. And it was the copy of La Alhambra. Also, that. Yes, it's a lot of influences. Some of them, I agree to you. I said to you, they are evident in the language, evident in the geography, are evident. Others you must dig a bit on. In music, there are evidence in these two cases, I said to you.
Thank you very much. Do you want to say something, Prof?
Actually, Prof, that I just wanted to say, not a question, is an observation. The oldest span, the older span, now the modern span is two different span. Because I remember that when Hutchinson brought the United Nations Agenda Clash of Civilization, it was the span, and then Turkey, the Christian and the Islamic country, Muslim country, they said this is leading towards the destruction of the world. We should look for forming the alliance of the civilization. So that's where the alliance started it. And I really congratulate to your country, which is one of the first among European that recognizes the genocide against the Muslims in Palestine and accept this as a Palestinian states. So this is not a question, rather my observation that perhaps the Spain is moving into the right direction. Thank you. Congratulations.
So as we conclude this enlightening session, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks. You want to say something, Prof? Okay, to Professor Dato Murad American for his thought-provoking sightings, and also His Excellency Jose Luis Pardo, the Ambassador of Kingdom of Spain to Malaysia, for his valuable contributions. And before we proceed with the token of appreciation session, I will give the floor to Professor.
Yeah, Alhamdulillah. I think, first of all, let me thank the two wonderful speakers today, one great philosopher and intellectual, and one great wise diplomat ambassador. This is really a wonderful session combining a very deep insights in a very important topic. We learned a lot from both of them. And I think I would like to thank all the great participants who are here in the Zoom. They are still holding with us here. We have also one ambassador in the Zoom there, I think from Argentina. Argentina ambassador, we thank him for staying with us here. This is really something wonderful. And let me just conclude saying that this lecture brought us to recognize the importance of arts, culture, and civilization diplomacy. And that's what this institute stands for. We are promoting people and cultures and civilizations using this platform of knowledge and education. So that's why I think the way forward is to really engage people and cultures and arts and artists and all these people. Muslims in history and Islamic civilization has produced Al-Andalus. And Dalam, or inside Al-Andalus, Alhambra, is one of the great monuments which show the tolerance, the coexistence, the arts, the artistic thoughts. And we build a civilization for 600-700 years there. This tells us that Muslims today can do the same. And we can have Al-Andalus in the Malay world here. And we can have Al-Andalus in Turkey, in the center of Europe and the Mediterranean. And we can have Al-Andalus in India, in Pakistan. And we can have Al-Andalus in Africa. And that's the mission of Islamic civilization. Is not to build empires and colonize, but to build cultures, arts, civilization, bring the world together. I think after I heard what His Excellency, the way how His Excellency presented, I think he is a great symbol of that tolerance of the great Christian, great European diplomats, scholars, intellectuals who can really build bridges. And that's what we are looking for, brothers and sisters. Our great intellectual here, Prof. Murad, also has shown how the Malay world and the Islamic world can also coexist. So I think that's our way forward. And with this, I once again thank His Excellency, Prof. Murad, all of you here and in the Zoom. May God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Allah Ta'ala wa barakatuh. We will have to give a souvenir to His Excellency, and we should have a photo together with His Excellency, and we should end this session today. Assalamu alaikum once again.